Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome everyone into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology turned podcast. Everyone, hey, welcome into the program. So today on the show, we have the one, the only, the venerable Mr. Ralph Bond joining us here once again. And yeah, he has a whole list of topics and stories. Some of them are really going to blow your mind. You're going to love it. Stick around here for that, everyone. And hey, check out the show notes over at computeramerica.com. While you're there, check out social media, check out podcasts, wherever podcasts are heard. Computer America should pop right up. Just want to get out of the way that I apologize for the double send a little earlier today. I made a typo, and don't worry, it was only a typo in the title. It was like the third word, and I had to correct that. So if you got two of them, hopefully one of them gets deleted before you download it. But if you happen to have downloaded it already, I apologize. So yeah, but hey, both of them work. It's just one of them has a typo, so don't worry about that. Okay, so with that being said, everyone, computeramerica.com once again. Thank you for tuning in to the show. And yeah, I hope everyone out there is going to have a great weekend. You're ready for a Friday episode. And as always, I can't think of anyone better to send everyone out on than Ralph Bond. So let's go ahead and bring in our guest. So once again, our guest today is
Ralph Bond, Computer America correspondent and all-around nice guy, joins us on the program to talk all things tech. Focusing on the latest in medicine, construction, automation, and more, Ralph will have you starry-eyed for days to come. From maybe sunny Oregon, give up for the Bond.
And hey, let's go ahead. So Ralph, welcome back onto the program.
Yeah, that was great, except for the part about sunny Oregon. It's about 40 degrees Fahrenheit right now, overcast, and we're waiting for a huge storm to hit us about midnight tonight. So other than that, you had it great. I love it.
In my defense, I put from maybe -sunny Oregon.
Oh, okay, good. Maybe on occasion.
Yeah, from maybe sunny Oregon. But yeah, and of course that sound clip, we're going to explain why that was so cool here in just a bit, but you know, in the story. But hey, the show notes are going to be hugely important for that story and more. But Ralph, how you doing?
I'm doing great. And once again, we're back with an armload of fun stories. As you know, what I do is I troll and watch a lot of news services. Some are specialty news services that just look at medical technology, and others are just for space, and others are general purpose like CNN or whatever. And I just look for really interesting technology stories that frequently don't bubble up to the big mainstream media consciousness level. And so what I try to do here with this show, with Computer America, and also with my weekly segment I do locally here in Portland for KEX News Radio, is highlight some of these stories that otherwise maybe people would never, ever hear about.
Yeah, and hey, a lot of these, even we ourselves, you know, every day we do a headlines, you know, kind of recap interview and that whole thing, and we don't even pick up on like any of these. So it's really impressive that you're able to you know, to get these out. And hey, they're also pretty upbeat, so they won't bring you down on a Friday. Don't get me wrong. Occasionally we talk about the you know, the
weapons,
weapons and killer robots and things like that. But hey, it's better to know now than when you really need to know. So everyone,
you raise a good point, Ben. You raise a good point. That also what I try to do. I do try to look for things that give us hope. So science and technology equals hope in my world. And I do hope that most of these stories are going to leave you feeling better about our future, not depressed.
Absolutely. So with, I think with that being said, you know, we did our intro, and again, really looking forward to a number of these stories, but hey, the best place to start, as always, is story number one. So Ralph, please.
Yes, and as Ben mentioned in passing, please come out to the Computer America website, get the show notes, because it'll have links and pictures and all the information you need to follow up, especially if we don't get a chance to cover every single story, or if you want to revisit something or share it with a friend. So get those show notes. With that said, our first story, headline: Caltech's Leo, that's Leo, robot hybrid can skateboard, tightrope walk, and fly. Now, we've seen a lot of great robots from Boston Dynamics, and they're wonderful. This one, though, from Caltech is really quite remarkable. I picked this story up from USA Today, and we've got the link, a picture, and we've got a video you can watch as well. So while you're maybe checking out the video, let me give you the details. So researchers at the California Institute of Technology have built a drone robot hybrid. So it's a drone robot hybrid. That's really cool. That can do it all, called Leonardo, or Leo for short, which stands for, of course, it has to stand for something, legs on board drone. The bipedal robot can skateboard, hop, walk a tightrope. That's an amazing achievement alone. And fly. The 2.5 foot tall robot is the first robot to use multi-joint legs and propeller-based thrusters to control its balance. That's how it does its balance, which is fascinating. Leo's ability to switch between walking and flying allows it to move through very challenging environments. And already you should be thinking search and rescue, special situations, troubling tight corners, or environments that might be impossible for a human, perhaps. And because of its stabilizing propellers, you can poke or prod Leo with a lot of force without knocking the robot over. I'd like to have that capability. I have grandchildren that try to keep knocking me over all the time. Anyway, the team plans to further improve Leo's performance, changing its leg design to support more weight. That's critical for the future. And they plan to equip the robot with a drone landing algorithm that would let Leo make its own decisions, ding, 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 about whether it should walk, fly, or use a combination of both to get from one location to another. Again, with that AI capability, you could deploy this robot in a search and rescue situation and let it make its own decisions about what's the best way for me to get from here, the start point, to the target, right? And the researchers said Leo's technology could be used to help develop a wide range of robots, such as flying rotorcraft to explore Mars. But again, for my money, Ben, I keep going back to search and rescue. I just think there's huge potential here.
There's tons of potential, and one of my immediate reactions, because for those who are simply listening to this and not watching, this robot, and I'm sure that everyone is fairly familiar with Boston Dynamics. Right. Their robots, Ralph, are very I would say durable. Like, they're very chunky. They're very, kind of beefy. Yeah, let's face it, Ralph. We've seen what they do. They do flips off of beams and they kick them in the chest and to rebalance themselves. They're very durable machines. But they also look very expensive. They look like a piece of heavy machinery. This one looks much more, I guess, kind of affordable to build. I don't want to say cheap, because clearly it's, still a prototype and, very advanced technology. But still, Ralph, this seems like something that would be much more affordable for a ton of different applications.
Well, sure. And of course, if someone productized this and gets it into mass production, then your cost of units, of course, is correspondingly going to go down. So I think you're right on that as well. I
especially like the video, how they show it skateboarding. And don't get me wrong, It does a great skateboarding. But Ralph, at the same time, it's like, I guess they're showing that it can, it doesn't need like the airspace to fly. If it needs to walk, it can walk, that kind of thing. But I mean, is skateboarding really that impressive when this thing can literally fly?
Yeah. I think the skateboarding is simply proof of concept. It's sort of like if in terms of physics or in terms of AI and just mechanical engineering, all those things roll into one. If you say to yourself, what would be an interesting way to really get home to somebody that this thing can maintain balance in a moving situation? Skateboarding, I think, is a great choice.
It's definitely a great example, because I think a lot of people can't skateboard themselves. I know that I would kill myself if I tried to. You used to, yeah? Longboard or just shortboard?
Oh, gosh, in the old days, they were not as long as the longboards you're thinking of, but we had... I grew up in Orange County in San Clemente, California, on the coast. And in my day and time, we had these beautiful wood laminated Hobie, as in Hobie surfboards, but they made skateboards for a while. How I wish I still had that thing. And it was probably about 2.5 maybe feet long. So, longer than some of the smaller boards. Right. A wonderful skateboard, but boy, that brings back memories.
There you go. Well, hey, and nothing wrong with that. But how about Yeah, story number 2. And this has to do with, climate is often a topic that we, kind of come in strong on the show because, hey, I think technology got us into this situation and technology has a strong chance of getting us out of this situation.
Yeah.
Story number 2.
Yeah, this is fun. So the headline here is, how about a giant carbon dioxide vacuum plant to help clean up our climate mess? Comes from CNN. And there's a great picture here of this test facility. And there's a video too. So here's the story. In southwestern Iceland, there's a facility called the Orca, O-R-C-A plant, and it can suck up carbon dioxide in the atmosphere like a giant vacuum cleaner. And created and operated by a Swiss outfit called Climb, C-L-I-M-E, Works. So for Climate Works, right? Climb Works. The facility has an array of towering metal structures with 2 rows of 6 huge fans running across each one. And here's how it works. Powered by geothermal energy, which of course Iceland is famous for having, right? Which is abundant in Iceland, as the notes say. The fans suck air into the collector, and then carbon dioxide is filtered out of the air. Heat is then applied to remove the carbon dioxide from the filter. And next, the carbon dioxide is mixed with water and injected underground. And I bet you're thinking right away, that's fine for Iceland, but many environments wouldn't have necessarily that readily accessible geothermal and wouldn't be comfortable shooting stuff down into the ground. But still, it's pretty interesting. The carbon dioxide and then at this point, the carbon dioxide mineralizes. Boy, try to say that.
There you go.
Mineralizes.
Mineralizes
in the ground.
Correct.
Thank you, Ben. And the water flows away. The facility opened in September, a few months back, and currently removes about 10 metric tons of carbon dioxide every day, which is roughly the same amount of carbon dioxide emitted by 800 cars a day. So reality check in my notes, you would need, as the article points out, thousands upon thousands of these plants to have a real impact. But the idea is intriguing, and at least somebody's trying to find ways to help out.
So what I like about this plan already is that it's up, it's running, it's doing its job. And, you've already used the phrase proof of concept. So this is beyond that. It's, running since September, all that good stuff.
Yep.
Ralph, and one of the encouraging things is that, you think about, climate change is irreversible. We don't have a shot, blah, 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 whatever. All that not true. But still, the fact that we can come up with a technology that can actually reverse the damage that we're doing, obviously it would take monolithic proportions to get something like this feasible, on a large scale. But hey, at least there's a plan B, or at least a plan Omega at some point to, hey, we just need a ton of these Orca plants. So,
well, yeah. And Ben, related to what you're saying is a good way to think about this is it's not saying this is the answer. It's saying it's a bead in a necklace of answers. Right. So if we get a constellation of solutions orchestrating and working in harmony and at the same time, then maybe we can make an impact. So I think it's an interesting thing. Great for Iceland, great for environments that could support this kind of model. God go with them. I think it's great.
So one of the reasons I think basalt formation, because basalt is very long lasting, it's going to be sequestered for a long, long time. One of our chatters mentioned CO2 could be fed into a greenhouse gas for the plants inside. Maybe, right now they're sequestering it, which just means put it away and never think about it again, like your closet. But hey, maybe there's something that we can actually do with this and, turn it into a usable product. That's always the goal of everything, is to turn it into a usable product. So maybe plant food. Who knows?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Story number 2. Story number 3. Why is there a cute spider on my screen, Ralph?
I know. And this is an example of kind of the bizarre range of things that catch my attention. So this is really, really kind of out there. So the headline here is, spiders are much smarter than you think. This really references some new research. Comes from arstechnica.com, which is a great website. And there's a funny picture here of this really kind of interesting looking spider. Okay, so people tend to associate intelligence with brain size. And it has long been assumed that the smallest brains simply don't have the capacity to support complex mental processes. But what if they do? Recently, an evolutionary biologist at the University Museum of Bergen in Norway, here we are back in the north part of Europe area again, published a paper challenging this assumption using spiders to make his point. He claims that behaviors that can be described as cognitive as opposed to automatic responses could be fairly common among spiders. He cited orb weavers that adjust the way they build their webs based on the type of prey they're hunting. So he's saying they customize their web based on, oh, am I going after mosquitoes today? Or is there more this kind of creature that I want to try to catch?
It's not make web, catch food. It's what kind of food am I going for? That's thinking.
And what kind of web would be better optimized for capturing?
Right.
That's profound. I mean, I don't look at spider webs anymore the same way. But anyway, and he goes on to say, and ghost spiders that have been taught to associate a reward with the smell of vanilla. I don't know why vanilla was used, but the idea that you could train them is also an indication of brain power. The article also cites the research highlighting the remarkable intelligence of spiders. For example, a study from the University of Cincinnati noted jumping spiders use their brain power and exceptional vision to find, stalk, and pounce on their prey rather than building a web and waiting for the meal to arrive. So there's a category of spiders that are actually proactive hunters, not stationary hunters with using a web. So I don't know. To me, that was just like a fun thing to make me never look at spiders or spider webs the same way again.
Yeah, and so often, I mean, really, even if you go back to like the 90s, we're always like, dogs can't feel emotion or pain or things like that. I mean, Ralph, it seems like every time, especially, the higher order animals, but every time we look at animals and we try to gauge their intelligence, it's always more than we thought. And it's always weird. And Ralph, just quickly related, have you heard about the move for, people boiling lobsters? And of course, cooking lobsters, throwing them in the pot. There's more of a move nowadays because everyone thought, oh, they're just lobsters. They don't feel anything. They're automatic, that kind of thing. Now there's more of a move to quickly, kind of destroy the brain and keep them from feeling pain. And little things like that. It's not about like not eating lobsters, but it's about at least humanely treating the lobsters so that they don't, suffer, things like that.
Yeah. No, that's an excellent point. And talking about spiders, I know that lobsters and crabs and stuff, if I recall right, ultimately they're kind of related to insects. They're ocean insects, as it were.
Yeah, they're ocean spiders.
And I wonder if I've never thought about this. I wonder if the kind of crabs and lobsters and so forth, or not lobsters, but crabs you're talking about are. I wonder if we need an expert to say, ultimately in the world evolutionary food story, they're kind of relatives. That would be kind of fun to know. And if that's the case, their little brains might be doing more than we ever give them credit for.
And spiders might be tastier than you ever give them credit for. So who knows? Could be a little bit of both. But just general intelligence. And I guess, Ralph, also, let's face it, a lot of this has to do with technology and the ability to film at high speeds, keep the data, analyze the data, that kind of thing. Technology also helps in all of this as well. So very, very cool story. And so there you go. So story number 4 actually has a lot to do with the intro I gave you earlier in the program. And Ralph, I think I'll play you your note that you wanted me to play. So everyone,
play that clip.
I'm Andy. Welcome to the first ever example of an artificial intelligence DJ. Actually, having worked in radio stations for years, I kind of always thought that most of the intelligence there was artificial. All right, some bad robot humor there.
There you go.
Yeah. Isn't that something?
Did you make that, or is that one of the ones that they kind of?
Oh no, that was the sample from the company and the technology development team that they used as their proof of concept. One of their proof of concepts. There's a bunch of them out there too. You can go check it out. It just blew my mind.
And of course, the intro that we made, from they call him Wade. They give 2 different options, narration, promo, that kind of thing. And I'm sure we'll get into this. But what I'm saying is you can go try this yourself. And this is one of the few stories that, you can't exactly go get your own carbon sequestering plant, but you can go try this yourself as well if you'd like. But story number 4.
Yeah, this is fun. Comes from geekwire.com. Headline, Artificial Intelligence Used to Create Lifelike Disc Jogging. If you just heard the clip Ben played, I mean, if you were to play that to a crowd of people and they would just, I'm sure 99.9% of the world would always say, that's a human being.
Yeah.
No, that's what's so cool. So anyway, here's the story. All right, folks, what you just heard was Andy, as we were saying, ANDY for Artificial Neural Disc Jockey. And according to Andy's creators, Seattle-based Well Said Labs, And Super Hi-Fi, an artificial intelligence centric production company in Los Angeles, Andy, or the artificial intelligence disc jockey, could be coming soon to a streaming music service near you. The technology is awesome. The idea of displacing human beings and their jobs as announcers and so forth is not great, but it's still, from a technology point of view, is pretty interesting. So the Super Hi-Fi team claims that their artificial intelligence DJ has the same skills as a seasoned on-air DJ. That's a pretty bold claim. The artificial intelligence driving Andy can select the right content for any moment. That's pretty amazing. Stitch the content in seamlessly with other content or music and output all of that together as a fully produced listening experience. WellSaid Labs voice synthesis software is what makes Andy's voice so hard to distinguish from a human DJ. And according to the developers, Andy creates new possibilities in streaming audio, radio, retail marketing, and more. And Ben, one of the things after, several weeks of having this story sort of floating around in my head, I thought to myself, wouldn't it be interesting if broadcast is one thing, but what if you use this for example, for therapy with small children, that you could have a comforting male or female voice using this technology to respond to and help a child maybe that's in conflict or communicate in a comforting way. Different mindset than the broadcast idea.
And of course, you could even, judging by how they synthesize, because obviously synthesizing Ava, Alana, Tristan, Wade, whatever, being able to replicate that fake voice is one thing. Ralph, what if you could have, a nice, pleasant conversation with your favorite cartoon character? What if you got, someone who is fictitious, but hey, you want their voice, to communicate with a kid, to, get them to open up, things like that. Ralph, when this story, and I know you were talking about displacing jobs, and I think that while they may have the intonation, they may have the voice for radio, they won't have the personality and the brain behind it. That's something that hopefully for a little while, that's something humans are going to have.
That's a great point. That's a great point.
Yeah, but Ralph, what I do like about this is that, think about right now, streaming is like, pick a playlist, someone else curated, that's the end of it, and it goes song, maybe a couple ads thrown in the middle. Ralph, this turns any playlist, any radio station, or I should say any playlist, into an automatic radio station. And hey, some people like that. Transition from one to another, maybe put in some factoids, a little bit of personality.
Oh wow!
It's really fun to me, Ralph, to think that I could fire up I could make my own playlist, let's say 200-300 songs strong, and I could have an automatic DJ that transitions from one song to the next, makes it a little fun, and hey, it's completely customized.
Oh, that's great. Hey, thinking of this idea, so let's take Apple Music, which I listen to, and I'll say, play the 80s hits essentials playlist, right? And it just, like you say, it fires off. But what if it said, hey, Ralph, do you want to have our DJ give you fun factoids in between the songs? Yes or no? And if I say yes, then this technology could kick in and say, the following hit by David Bowie, well, he was living in such and so at this time. Right. That could be compelling. That could be a really cool way that doesn't take jobs away from people necessarily, but gives the user the opportunity to have this kind of interesting augmented content. I love that idea. That's very cool.
Just any way to turn, something that is kind of static and stationary, which is, this set of songs in this order or randomized, and turning it into kind of a more curated, kind of response. And of course you can take that into, just about any other field. But Ralph, this type of technology and what they're doing with Super Hi-Fi, very, very
and Ben, one more thought about this.
And then we're gonna move on. Yeah,
and this is kind of could be considered creepy, but what if someday I could go through the vocal exercises with this technology to get my voice right, and then I'm gone and dead and gone, but my children and grandchildren and so forth could talk to me through this technology and have me react to their reality at this time. It's a little weird, but I couldn't help but think about that.
And even Ralph, to some limited extent, just to put a movie to it, iRobot. And I know that the scientist who recorded, that message, and he's like, asked him certain questions. He's like, I can't answer that. But whenever he could answer or reply to something, he had like a customized response. And I'm thinking that, of course it's just a movie, but that might not be too far off in the future, Ralph, to be able to program something like that. That'd be very, very cool. Better than pictures, better than voicemail. Hey, this is very cool. And actually, one last point. Rover in the chat room kind of mentioned, read this as audiobooks. This kind of goes a little bit beyond audiobooks because, again, they're working AI into it, that they're trying to give them a personality. It's not so much, the voice is very impressive to, text to speech, the voice is impressive, but it's about the personality that kind of switches and transitions everything. So it's more than just auto reading. It's, transitioning, and that's important. So there you go. That's story number 4. Story number 5, Ralph.
Yes. And by the way, folks, if you look at your time clock, you might need to go to the show notes because there's a good chance we won't get through all the stories I've prepared, but not a worry. You can come out and get the show notes. Okay. Story number 5. This one is really very important. Breakthrough research shows that lithium ion batteries made with recycled materials, are you ready for this? Can outlast new counterparts. That just seems so counter-logical, right? This comes from sciencenews.com. I couldn't resist this story. I said, well, wait a minute. Okay. A new study from the Worcester Polytechnic Institute, or Worcester Polytechnic Institute in Massachusetts, states that lithium-ion batteries with recycled cathodes can outperform batteries with cathodes made from pristine materials, lasting for thousands of additional charge cycles. What? Growing demand for these batteries, which power devices from smartphones to electrical vehicles, of course, we all know that, may outstrip the world's supply of some crucial ingredients, such as cobalt. And ramping up recycling could help avert a potential shortage. But some manufacturers, rightly so, worry that impurities in recycled materials may cause battery performance to falter. According to the lead materials scientist behind this new study, recycled materials can perform as well as, or even better than, virgin materials. Oh, wow. Okay, so using shredded spent batteries, the Worcester Polytechnic Institute extracted the electrodes and dissolved the metals from those battery bits in an acidic solution. And by tweaking the solution's pH, the team removed impurities such as iron and copper and recovered more than, or over, 90% of 3 key metals: nickel, manganese, and cobalt. The recovered metals formed the basis for the team's cathode material. In tests of how well the batteries maintain their capacity to store energy after repeated use and recharging, batteries with the recycled cathodes outperformed ones made with brand new commercial materials of the same composition. I don't get it.
Yeah, and
I love it.
and not even by like a little bit. I know that you, of course, strip down, some of the details when you go through this, but 50% more cycles. So it went from like 7,000 to like almost 12,000 cycles. That is a huge jump, and I actually covered this one just a little bit on the show, Ralph, but I got to say that it puts a huge emphasis on recycling, and I hope that we do a better job of recycling, especially batteries, because I feel like we've covered this on the show before, with other green tech recycling people, and they're like, even in the US, like, we think we do a good job, but really we just package it up, sell it to China. China sells it to, I think it's like Malaysia and Taiwan and places like that, and they do not do a good job of doing it and doing it safely. So we could do this better. And Ralph, I think there's more incentive if the end product is actually worth something, and it sounds like it's worth a lot. So
isn't that something? And one tiny little nugget here is, I'm sorry to butcher Worcester, or
Worcestershire
because
sauce.
I'm hung up on the Latin. Okay, Chester is Latin for a fort. Mm-hmm. So what this city is really named for, ancient name for the Roman fort at war. And Worcestershire sauce is Worcestershire. It's the Roman fort at war in the woods, Shire. So, I mean, sorry, I had to digress into Cliff Clavin trivia.
No. The origins of the word are great. Okay, I'm going to say the stupidest thing that will be said on the show today. From my understanding, the origin of the word, of that word, comes actually from rednecks here in the United States. And they look at the bottle and they go, "Worcestershire here sauce." And there you go. So, not what's this here sauce? Worcestershire sauce. Yeah, so that's the stupidest thing that we said. Sorry for the digression. Yes, that'll be the stupidest thing. So yeah, okay. So all that aside, very cool story. Recyclable batteries, and ladies and gentlemen, this is actually a little call to action. Don't try to throw lithium-ion batteries away in the trash, please. I know that's a pain in the butt, and they sometimes charge you like $1 or $2 to actually do it, but recycle them
thing to do.
Responsibly. Absolutely, don't just throw them in the garbage. So, story number 6. Let's go ahead and talk about this. And robots, they're getting better.
Yes. So, headline here: a new skin that helps robots feel. This is a really interesting outlet too, called interestingengineering.com. Really recommend you check it out. They come up with some really fun stories. So here's a scoop. This week, this story is actually several weeks old, but recently the Meta AI researchers in collaboration with Carnegie Mellon University announced the development of a new skin that could allow robots to feel. Oh yeah, we're getting closer and closer to the Terminator every day. It's called Reskin, that's Reskin, and it leverages advances in machine learning and magnetic sensing to offer a versatile solution that is ideal for repeated long-term use. And here's how it works. When Reskin touches something, the plastic it's made from deforms, changing the magnetic field created by the embedded particles. A circuit board then tracks these changes and communicates them to an artificial intelligence system. And how is it able to feel? The circuit board also communicates these changes as a force or a sense of touch. The novel technology can identify touch as light as 0.1 newtons of force with an accuracy of 1 millimeter. Wow. The Reskin is also cost efficient to produce. It amounts to less than $6 at each 100 units and even less at larger quantities. And it's 2 to 3 millimeter thick and can be used for more than 50,000 interactions without needing to be replaced. And so far, the researchers have trialed Reskin in robot hands, tactile gloves, arm sleeves, and even dog shoes, and have been able to monitor many activities from the skin, such as how the gloves grasp and how the shoes walk and rest. So it's pretty amazing. And they have concluded that Reskin is also ideal for fast manipulation tasks like throwing or catching objects. And best of all, when the skin does finally wear out or from wear and tear, usually after 50,000 touch interactions, it can be easily stripped off and replaced. So this is pretty interesting stuff. And that 0.1 newtons of force is really very sensitive, by the way. If you want to dig into reverse engineer the definition of that amount of force, it's quite impressive.
Yeah, I'm not really too sure. I don't measure too many things in newtons, but yeah, it sounds very sensitive. And again, this blog post that they have has lots of videos. And Ralph, to your point with the dog shoes, you can see that exact video right here.
Yeah, there you go.
Of the dog wearing shoes. And by the way, as predicted, the dog does not exactly enjoy that kind of thing, but still being able to kind of detect skin, stuff like that. Maybe not Terminator Ralph, but maybe robots that can feel that can touching a robot normally means nothing. Maybe one day it won't be that way. So one can certainly hope. Story number 6, story number 7, and we're going to pick up the pace here a little bit because Ralph, I still want to keep you just under an hour, but at the same time, I mean, man, these stories are so interesting.
You got it. Okay. Story number 7. New research at Stanford University points to solution to global blood shortage. This comes from scitechdaily.com, another great website. This one's really cool. So Stanford researchers have developed a new mathematical model of the body's interacting physiological and biochemical processes, including blood vessel expansion, blood thickening, and flow rate changes in response to the transfusion of red blood cells. And this shows that instead of real blood, plasma expanders could be a substitute that can lower the costs and eliminate blood transfusions' negative effects. So plasma expanders consist of solutions of high molecular weight starch dissolved in normal saline. Wait a minute. So we're not talking about exotic materials here. Let me say that again. Plasma expanders consist of solutions of high molecular weight starch dissolved in normal saline, and they have been in use in transfusion medicine for several decades and have proven to be effective in experimental studies. So we all know that the shortage of blood is a terrible problem, but the main part of as I understand it from surgical procedures and so forth, the main issue of getting a bunch of bags of blood to help the patient who's having a surgical situation or an emergency situation in the ER is mainly to keep the blood fluid levels going. And so why not substitute it? They've figured out a way to substitute that with this plasma expander approach. So I don't know, it's kind of a cool and promising thing in medicine, that's for sure.
Yeah, if you can turn one bag of blood into, a dozen bags of blood, that is even more important. Or even, hey, just not even needing blood at all. And I just looked it up. It looks like you can only store blood for about 42 days in the fridge. Which, if you know that, turn yourself into the cops. You shouldn't, you shouldn't be around. But 42 days in the fridge before it goes bad, whatever bad blood kind of does. And of course, you can freeze it. But Ralph, having that blood on hand, that is more important than anything else. So, Ralph, I'll be honest, this is a problem I never even considered, because obviously they have blood drives and things like that, but a shortage of blood, I mean, Ralph, even if they had all the blood that they needed today, in 42 days, they would need even more blood all over again. Like this problem will not be fixed until they come up with a solution like this. And that's very cool. That is definitely very cool. So story number 8, we can go ahead and move on to solar farms.
Yeah. And this story is not so much about an exotic technology or something nobody's ever done before, but rather I wanted to salute Kansas City for innovatively thinking about where can we put solar farms in our area. So here's the headline. Kansas City looks to build a solar farm by its airport to power the entire city. Wow. Comes from the Kansas City Star newspaper. Here we go. Kansas City is exploring building a 300 megawatt capacity solar farm on a few thousand acres by the Kansas City International Airport. Most airports have open land around them, obviously, for safety reasons, but it's just sitting there doing nothing most of the time, right? And so they said, wait a minute, we could make a solar farm. Anyway, it would be one of the largest solar farms in the country, let alone one created by a municipality. The city is currently conducting a feasibility study to see how they could implement it and how much power it could provide. The Kansas City team believes there's an opportunity for a solar array on this land to provide power to most or all of the homes and residents in the city, in addition to the businesses, by the way. And the team notes this is not just about powering city facilities. It's about powering the entire city. I mean, can you imagine that? If this one solar farm could potentially power the entire city, and the city of Kansas City is about almost 500,000 people, if I recall right. So pretty impressive.
Yeah, and really just putting it where this land is already allocated and wouldn't, it really wouldn't be in the way, I guess. In fact, you can look up, pictures such as these if you're watching the video portion. How much solar would it take to power the U.S., stuff like this. Infographics like these are always fun, where, let me zoom in here a little bit, this picture of the U.S. and that little yellow square there, Ralph, in Arizona, because, hey, they get the most sun. It's dry, lots of sun.
Sure.
That's how much area-wise we would need to power the entirety of the United States.
Wow.
Now, clearly, that's not really feasible because that would be a lot of solar panels. But, it's not that big a deal. Like, really, when you consider this mixed with wind and other renewables. And in fact, there's even a lot of people looking at nuclear as well. So,
sure.
It's just a little bit of everything. And I'm glad that especially smaller cities, Ralph, are looking into this, because I can imagine smaller cities. Hey, Ralph, maybe a mega project like this would be much cheaper than a coal or a nuclear plant or something like that. Just
exactly
throw everything at it. Story number 9. And it's been a little while since we talked about Google, but what are they up to?
This is very inspiring. This is wonderful. So Google has a new smartphone app to ease communication, or actually to make it possible for people with severe speech impediments. Got this from Engadget.com. You look at the link and look at the video when you have a chance. It's inspiring. So it says here in my notes, last month, it may be a little bit longer than a month ago, but Google recently announced a new Android smartphone app called Project Relate designed to help people with severe speech challenges more easily communicate with others. The app can also run the Google Speech Recognition Assistant to activate apps, manage communications, and operate Google smart home devices. And here's the problem Google wanted to overcome with this app. Standard speech recognition doesn't always work well for people with severe speech impairments. Well, obviously, because the algorithms have not been trained on samples of their unique patterns. The Project Relate app will use custom models trained on each individual user's speech pattern. When someone first launches the app will ask them to repeat a few phrases to create a base model to understand the way they speak. Then the Project Relate app can do three things: transcribe the user's speech into text that they can copy and paste or show to people on their smartphone screen. So let's say you go into a restaurant, you have a severe speech impediment thing. You could say your sentence, I want a burger with, fries and a milkshake and, a glass of water, and it would transcribe it. And then you could show it to the waiter. Can you imagine people with really severe speech impediment? Oh my God, what a blessing. You can also play back what the user said in a synthesized voice. So you could dictate, then just have it play back, right? And communicate, of course, as I said before, with the Google Assistant. So Google is now looking for beta testers. They're looking for people to help improve this app. And my last comment here is from me, not from the article. Salute to Google, as I believe this is a major step to improve speech recognition for those with severe speech challenges.
And of course, Google has, this reputation of being, just a little bit too big and powerful and all that good stuff. But I will say one thing that Google does really, really well is democratizing technology. They let everyone use it. They don't really lock a lot of it behind because, hey, these are, Ralph, what is it? Like they dedicate 20% of their employees' time to new projects, new ideas, passion projects, side projects. And hey, a lot of these, they could be viable, viable products to kind of sell and make money, but a lot of them are just passion, and they are, they open them up for everyone. So the fact that Project Relate is even there is really impressive. So like you said, salute to Google, and accessibility, always super important. Story number 10. And Ralph, I am not surprised at all. Some of the stories that we cover day to day here on the program include the fact that obviously there's politics, which we don't really need to get into, but there's this whole Build Back Better thing. There's a lot of emphasis on getting especially tech assembly out of Asia and Southeast Asia and getting it in more places. I mean, hey, that starts somewhere, and I think it starts with story number 10.
Yeah. So headline here is America is buying a record number of industrial robots. That's, again, not a surprise. You're right, Ben. But hang on. There's a twist in the story that I think is really interesting. Got this from the Reuters news service. Companies in North America added a record number of industrial robots in the first 9 months of this year as they struggled to add human workers, according to a report released recently by the Association for Advancing Automation. Factories and other industrial users ordered 29,000 robots valued at nearly $1.5 billion, which is 37% more than during the same period last year. And there's another interesting trend. This is what I alluded to. Traditionally, auto companies have long bought the most industrial robots in North America. But in 2020, combined sales of other types of businesses surpassed the auto sector for the first time, and that trend continues in the waning part of this current year. In the first 9 months of this year, automotive industry-related orders for robots grew 20% to 12,544 units, while orders for non-automotive companies expanded to 53%, representing a units of 16,355 robots. So it's that broadening out from just primarily, or the majority being for auto industry. Now the other industries collectively are out buying the auto industry. And I just thought that's an interesting twist.
So automation comes up, and we always feel a little bit of sadness that, hey, each one of these is a job that someone can't get. But Ralph, we always kind of prefaces that, or we always kind of bookend that by saying that, hey, that's a job that someone doesn't have to do. They can go off and do something that they actually want to do. And the fact that automation is coming so fast, and of course, Ralph, what is it? I think I've heard somewhere that there's still 12 million or 11 million job openings in the United States.
Yes.
And of course, these are 16,000, well, I guess combined about 30,000 robots. 30,000 to 11 million isn't, we're all not going to be jobless tomorrow. But, well, I might be with that AI voice. But, 30,000 is a drop in the bucket compared to 11 million job positions. So, yeah, there's a need for this, Ralph.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so there you go. And so we'll see how that hopefully helps everyone. So we can go ahead and do story number 11. And then, Ralph, we might actually get to all the stories, but I'm going to start looking at some of these other stories. But
okay, you
story
got
number 11. Yeah.
Here we go. This is an example of kind of the out there stuff that piques my interest. So headline, these tiny robots inspired by starfish larvae move courtesy of ultrasound. Got this from techcrunch.com. Fun story. And there's a great little video too. Robotics researchers have long been fascinated with the prospects of extremely small robots for a host of reasons, right? In specific, micro robots could be a huge help in medicine for targeted delivery of medication and for microsurgical procedures. But figuring out how to make these tiny robots move through blood vessels, for example, to a target has been a huge challenge. For example, how can you make the tiny robots move without batteries and other technologies on board that would make them too large to pass through, for example, a blood vessel? So today, magnets are often used, but a team at ETH Zurich is exploring an altogether different solution using ultrasound. First, the ETH Zurich team made tiny robots which measure smaller than the diameter of a human hair using photolithography. Then they covered the robots with synthetic versions of the hair-like cilia that cover starfish larvae. For starfish larvae, these ultrafine hair-like cilia beat the surrounding water in patterns that create small vortexes, propelling the young larvae through the fluid. The team says it was able to create a similar propulsion in its tiny robots by applying ultrasound waves, allowing the micro robots to swim in a controlled path. I mean, this is just great stuff.
I'm so curious as to kind of how strong their propulsion is, because obviously it would have to Ralph, as always, Microbots, the first thought is those are going to be inside my body. So I'm curious how strong it could go through blood vessels and things like that.
Yeah.
But man, that's really incredible that they're able to make them that small. And hey, of all things, starfish larvae. I never even gave two thoughts to starfish larvae, and these guys somehow figured out, oh, hey, let's copy them. That's
you gotta love it. I bet at some point some group of researchers or maybe one person said to themselves, what in nature is really, really small but can move? Starfish larvae. They're really tiny and they can move. How do they move? Wait a minute. How could we, simulate that?
By and large,
it just blows my mind.
And really, by and large, I always assumed that they just kind of went with the current of the ocean. It was whatever, but using ultrasound, that's something truly remarkable. And one thing that I kind of like about that is, through this video here that they show, they show the natural one, and then they show the artificial one, but they show the natural one kind of side by side. Ralph, it always kills me that the nature and the natural one seems just a little bit more effective and complicated than anything artificial or high tech that we can make. Like, no matter how high tech we make it, nature has its beat in so many ways. It's really, really cool to mimic that. So, everyone, we're going to have a bonus story, and that bonus story is story number 12. And we can talk. You can find out more about German space startup using candle wax to launch satellites. Because here I thought rocket fuel, but hey, if you can do it with candle wax, even better. That's story number 12, and you can go over to the show notes and check that out. But Ralph, I wanted to give you plenty of time to do story number 13.
Sure. So, of course, we all know this was covered huge last month, 50th anniversary of the microprocessor. And this is sort of a personal commentary thing based, of course, on many articles.
Ralph, and sorry to interrupt you right there. Someone recommended this real quick. Yeah. So one of our every time your mind blows, you got to play that.
Yes.
There you go. Exactly. Okay, never mind. Go ahead.
Perfect. Yes. So again, this is sort of a personal reflection because, as you know, Ben, I worked for many years, or almost about 14 years for Intel Corporation. And by the way, I had wonderful opportunities in those days to work with Pat Gelsinger, who's now heading up the company.
Right.
For me, he was a wonderful person. I can't speak for everybody's experience, but I hugely admired Pat, and I'm so happy he's there. Anyway, so last month, of course, 50th anniversary of the microprocessor. There's tons and tons of articles. And it was so great to celebrate this anniversary of the microprocessor, again, invented by Intel. But we all need to remember that the microprocessor, and for that matter, all of the electronics we know of and take for granted today, would not exist were it not for the invention of the transistor, right? And the invention of the transistor made shrinking down electronics, computers, you name it, possible. And the first transistor was successfully demonstrated on December 23, 1947 at Bell Laboratories in Murray Hill, New Jersey. Very quickly, the telephone company had these huge systems of vacuum tube based machines and systems to deal with telephonic management, right? And the tubes were a terrible problem, failing and causing problems. They desperately needed a solid state solution. They needed a transistor that wasn't based on a tube. And so that was the motivation. So Bell Labs is the research arm of the American Telephone and Telegraph Company, AT&T. I think everybody knows that. 3 individuals were credited with the invention of the transistor were William Shockley, John Bardeen, and Walter Brattain. And this is kind of special and personal for me because my grandfather was a scientist at Bell Labs and was on the team that helped make the miracle of the transistor possible. And Ben, when I was a young kid, maybe, 6 years old or something, he gave me a transistor radio and he was so excited about it. And so, he just was so thrilled. And now I understand why. And he and Dr. Shockley William Shockley rather, used to go up into the attic of my grandfather's house and play mad scientist stuff. But again, unfortunately, William Shockley had some very unfortunate racist ideas and beliefs and so forth. And my grandmother didn't like him at all. But as a scientist, that's another story.
Right. Yeah. And really, here in the background, I'm showing a video of the Moore's law and the amount of transistors, and it really just kind of goes to show that they started in 1971, just like you were talking about, with like 1,600 transistors on a CPU in particular.
Yeah.
And it's kind of going through 1987 right now, and of course you speed it all the way up to modern day. And obviously Moore's law is starting to win just a little bit. And then of course, they come out with new AMD and Intel processors all the time. Ralph, we're already up to, what is that? 39 million transistors on a CPU. So Ralph, 50 years ago, we were looking at 1,600. Now we're looking at almost 40 million on a single CPU. Really incredible stuff.
And again, Ben, for everybody in the audience, just remember that prior to the microprocessor, you had computers, of course, but the components, if you will, the things that made it a computer were separate, discrete things. And the idea was, can we make one chip be a computer? That was essentially the idea that Intel was pursuing 50 years ago. Well, achieved 50 years ago.
Yeah, the ability to turn a computer from a room that you stood inside of and turning it into now a device that you hold. Very, very revolutionary. And again, I knew that had personal meaning for you because obviously you live in Intel country, and hey, you work for them as well, and your father did as well on top of that. So everyone, like I said, story number 12. If you want to find out more about that, you're going to have to go check out the show notes, or simply check out Ralph Bond and Ralph Bond Wix in Google. We'll have a link in our show notes over at computeramerica.com directly to the website. And Ralph, real quick, Rover over in the chat room wanted to know, because he's compiling a master list. He's letting me use it, so it may go up in the free software. He's compiling a list of tech shows. It's about 100 strong, and he wanted to know when your segment on WKEX airs. So when is that, by the way?
Oh, yeah. It airs on the Mark Mason Show on 1190 KEX Radio, Portland, Oregon, every Friday in the third hour of the show. So this would be in Pacific time from 2 to 3 p.m. Pacific every Friday. And in there, you'll find it's about an 8-minute segment I do with Mark, and it's just a blast.
Perfect. And I'm sure he got all that. And yeah, I'll be sure to type that out for him. But everyone, hey, if you want to find out more about Ralph, you can do that. Ralph, next month, we may have a little bit of a scheduling conflict with CES, although we might not. I got to think about that. But yeah, until, between now and then, of course, we're going to have the holiday break. I hope you have a great Christmas. I hope you have a great, a great time with family. And it doesn't snow too much in Oregon. I know it normally doesn't, but
no,
hey, hopefully it doesn't.
We'll be okay.
Yeah, perfect. But Ralph, until next month, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show.
Hey, always a joy.
All right, perfect. And everyone, once again, computeramerica.com. If you want to find out more, you can, of course, go there and find, the podcast, all that and more. Let's go ahead and do this. So, wait, I got this? Wait, no, wait, what? Why is that going? There we go. Okay, music for the outro. Ralph, thank you for coming on the show, and as always, great stories, and sorry for making you wait there in the beginning, but I think we got it all done. Until next time, everyone, computeramerica.com, podcast, all that good stuff. Have a great weekend. Have a good one. Bye, everyone.